Hot takes, great debates, highlights, basketball. Mr. Taliaferro. So we're going to get into a big-time trade in the NBA, or let me not even say a big-time trade. It's a moderately important trade that could have big-time ramifications depending on what Houston decides to do going forward. So I want to give you a little bit of backstory before I get in the ins and outs of the trade. I want to tell you three important things as we get to this trade and as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline. That's in less than, 24 hours now? So here's the three things you need to know. Number one, more important than anything else, this is not going to be one of the trade deadlines that has had the most uproar around it, right? This is not going to be the trade deadline last year. It's just not going to be it's not going to be the trade deadline from a couple years ago. Remember when LeBron got that overhaul in Cleveland with Jordan Clarkson and all those guys that came over? This is not going to be that one either, all right? I want to be clear with you. Generally speaking, trade deadlines are depicted on, you can tell how hot or how cold a trade deadline is going to be depending on two things: the amount of free agents, the caliber of free agents available the following summer, and then also you depending on how many teams they think they can win it. Right now, I believe there are three and a possible, maybe 3 to 5 teams that believe they can win a championship this year. Milwaukee, the Lakers, the Clippers, maybe the Rockets think they can win it. We will see. I believe Utah thinks they're a piece or two away. I believe a lot of those teams in the Eastern Conference believe they're a piece or two away. The Bostons of the world, obviously the defending NBA champion Toronto Raptors. I believe they know they need one more piece to replace Kawhi Leonard. Philly's one of those teams that I thought they could get to the finals, but they're slumping right now. But again, there are like 3 to 4 teams that believe that they could do it this year. I don't believe Denver, without a superstar caliber perimeter player, Michael Porter in a couple years, maybe there's a different conversation, but I don't believe Denver believes they could win it right now. Portland's been slumping. I know they got to the conference finals with no Golden State in the mix this year. I just don't believe there are a lot of teams that could believe they can win it. So with that, there's not going to be a lot of teams that are going to be going out of their way to make moves. They'll just wait till the summer, see where their cap situation is then. Also, you need to understand with free agency this summer, technically Anthony Davis is a free agent. If he does decide to leave LA, I believe he already knows what team he's going to play for. So again, a lot of teams are not positioning themselves this summer to get into the free agent mix, because next summer is the one you want to be a part of, when guys like Giannis could be available. We thought Bradley Beal would be available, but you want to position yourself, because I do believe if the Bucks fail to win a championship in this year or next year, Giannis could potentially look to move on. He said all the right things, but we know this game is about what have you done for me lately. This is my career. Giannis wants to be a legend, obviously. So that's the first thing I want you to know. Also, when we talk about the Houston Rockets, we're going to get into them more in a second. Their general manager, Daryl Morey, is under a lot of pressure. Now, the ownership group in Houston has given Daryl Morey the complete control to make any deadline. They're letting him know money is not an issue. As long as you're able to do whatever you can at the deadline, Daryl Morey has the complete power at this trade deadline to make any move that he believes can help this Houston Rockets roster out up right now. And he's under a lot of pressure. I would say this general manager he's probably going to get the boot if the Rockets don't make it to at least the Western Conference Finals. He's not going to last. He's probably going to get fired. Remember, Daryl Morey is the guy who, I still can't believe he got criticized for this, but Daryl Morey was the guy who criticized the Chinese government this summer while we had the Lakers over there and the Nets were over there, I believe, as well, for a preseason game. Daryl was the one who said, I'm for all rights, essentially. He tweeted out, rights for everyone, amidst the China's government's problems with the people of China, right? With that, the NBA has lost reportedly $150 million to $200 million just off that one tweet alone, because the government's like, yo, why y'all got GMs in our business, in our personal business? We saw guys like LeBron come out and go at Daryl Morey saying it wasn't a good business move for him to say that. It was just stupid. Again, I didn't think Daryl Morey said anything wrong. I mean, all the dude was trying to say was, I'm for everyone having rights. But that was against the Chinese government, which at the end of the day, they're the ones paying them bills for the NBA. They're the ones over that agreement with the NBA. It comes back to them. It lost the NBA a lot of money this year, $150 to $200 million, because that deal with China, one of the deals with China, it's torn up. It's no longer a thing. The NBA is now trying to massage, Adam Silver's trying to massage that with China. So I just want you to know that Daryl Morey is under complete scrutiny. He's the analytical GM. You know, he bases the way he signs players off analytics. That's the second thing I want you to know. And the last thing I want you to know before we get into this deal, I feel like I'm giving you a lot of background information, but I want you to know these things. This deal happens because Minnesota couldn't get D'Angelo Russell. Originally, this deal had like 3 or 4 teams in it, but the premier team that was in it at first was the Golden State Warriors, as D'Angelo Russell has been available for Golden State, and with the right offer, which was centered around Andrew Wiggins at the time, this deal would have involved Golden State and a couple other teams. But Minnesota and Golden State, their talks for D'Angelo Russell have reached their climax, and that is now done, and it's not going to happen at the deadline here. So D'Angelo Russell will remain a Warrior past this deadline. He will likely be traded this summer. If you follow my platform, you know I thought the smarter move was to trade Russell at the deadline and not now. But now let's get into this trade that has been somewhat of a little bit of a wake-up call in the middle of the night in the NBA. The Houston Rockets are receiving Robert Covington from Minnesota, Jordan Bell in a second-round pick. The Atlanta Hawks will be receiving Clint Capela. That's the biggest name in this trade, Clint Capela of the Houston Rockets. Their center has been traded, and also Atlanta's going to get in the name. That was an expiring deal over there with Houston. Also in this deal, Minnesota. This is a really good player. Denver's involved in this trade. They're giving up Malik Beasley to Minnesota. Herman Gomez was a guy off their bench. Evan Turner as well. That was a contract from Atlanta. You got Jared Vanderbilt, a guy that I kind of like. An Atlanta first-round pick. That's via Brooklyn. And the Denver Nuggets, they're going to get a little help to bolster their bench. Shabazz Napier, Noah Vonleh, a former lottery pick. Gerald Green, who's out for the season with Houston. Keita Diop, and a Houston first-round pick. So Houston, they were trying to get as many picks and as many players they could to bolster their rotation. They're obviously going small. They're pretty much going to roll with PJ Tucker playing the center right now until they get a bigger name. Maybe Jordan Bell gets into that starting lineup. So they're obviously of the mentality that we're just going to play small ball and light you up on the perimeter. I'll get into that more shortly, but I want to speak on Denver's decision to trade Malik Beasley, which you might not know a lot about Beasley, but if you watch basketball, you follow the game, you know Malik Beasley could give you buckets. Any given night for Denver, just with that situation, Malik Beasley was up for a new contract, and it was going to be tough for Denver to keep Beasley around. Look, let's call a spade a spade. They paid Will Barton. They just paid Gary Harris a year or so ago. They given a big bag to Jamal Murray. Jokic obviously is their star, and let's just call a spade a spade. You know, they gave Paul Millsap a fairly good deal for the foreseeable future. Let's call a spade a spade. They now know that their guy is Michael Porter Jr. They know, forget all this off the bench stuff. They got a guy who has the chance to be a star in this NBA. All right, so they now know just to keep Malik Beasley, it just was unfeasible. Remember, Michael Porter's already in the second year of his deal. Remember, he missed all of last year, but he's in year 2 of his deals. He's going to be up for a contract extension in about a year or so. So that money, you got to keep any money in. You got to plan for the Michael Porter era in Denver. So they had to give up a couple guys. They got some cheaper guys like Vonleh and Napier who could help out their bench as they try to make a playoff push. Overall, I think every team did what they thought was best for them. I can't say Houston won in this deal. Robert Covington is a good knockdown shooter, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, and let's just face it, he wasn't getting what he needed to get with Minnesota. I saw Karl Anthony Towns upset about losing Robert Covington, pretty much questioning what the hell is Minnesota doing right now. But when he gets to know Malik Beasley can ball. He'll be fine. Just to be real with you, I think Capela to Atlanta, I'm looking at John Collins thinking, he might be next to go. I've interviewed John Collins. I really like John Collins personally. He had the 25-game suspension for the failed drug test to start the season. And I believe that Atlanta ownership, and I don't know this to be true, but I believe this. I believe that suspension is what did him in. It put him in a doghouse. Because remember, John Collins and the Hawks, they started off on a decent start. They were like 3-2 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But they started out decent. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA now. I don't think that Hawks team, outside of Trae Young, I don't think they ever regrouped after losing John Collins for 25 games, right? Outside of Trae Young, who's an all-star game starter, even that coaching staff, I don't believe they ever regrouped from losing John Collins, and I think he's in the doghouse. I would not be surprised if John Collins on the move. I know Brooklyn's had some interest in John Collins, a couple other teams. I would not be surprised if he's on the move in the next couple days. I don't really understand why the Hawks went and got Capela right now. They probably could have did that this summer. They're not making a playoff push this year. Capela's a guy who makes a decent amount of money. I know the Atlanta Hawks wanted Andre Drummond because Drummond and Trae Young are close friends, but to me that doesn't make sense because Trae doesn't know Clint Capela that well. Yeah, he's cool with John Collins. If you're going to make a move, I get it if you bring Trae Young's friend and Andre Drummond in because that's his friend. Andre's contract is up this summer. If you're going to do that, I get that. But to bring in a random big who pretty much does the same things as John Collins, and in my opinion, though I believe Clint Capela is a tad bit better defensively than Collins, athletically, they're tit for tat. To me, you're kind of fracturing relationships if the plan is to trade John Collins or not re-sign him in the future. So I really didn't get that one for Houston. Again, this seems like a desperation move. PJ Tucker, you're going to wear him out. You're just going to wear him out. It's already tough enough that he's playing a 4 a lot of nights for Houston. He's undersized. I mean, the dude is 6'5", 6'6". They squeezed every lemon out of that PJ Tucker contract that they've cut out of his body. And you got to believe he's going to break down at some point. They're going all guards, essentially. I just don't think that works. Russell Westbrook is a great rebounding point guard. James Harden is a good rebounding point guard. Robert Covington is a good perimeter shooter. You're essentially expecting your team to make 15, 23s a game to compete in today's NBA. That's what you're expecting of this team with the amount of shooting. You're trying to get double teams away from Harden. That's what you're trying to do. I'm just not 100% sure if this one is going to work out for this Rockets team. But I'm going to put an asterisk by it because I believe they're going to go out and get another big. They did create a $12 million exception here, so they can go out and acquire another talent. They have been pretty much financially captivated over the last few months. They have been trying to get Andre Iguodala. They have been unsuccessful at doing that. They have been trying to get other perimeter guys to bolster up their roster. They have been unable to do that because, number one, they don't have any money, and Clint Capela is the contract they got to go. They don't want to trade Russ. They're not going to trade Harden. The only guy that makes a lot of money, because pretty much everybody else on a fairly reasonable deal. If you look around the league, what Eric Gordon gives that team, I think he's on a fairly reasonable contract because he knows he's injury prone. PJ Tucker, like I said, they squeezed every lemon out of that. And everybody else on that Houston Rockets roster is pretty much at a discounted rate if you really want to be, honest about it. Guys like Austin Rivers, Daniel House, these guys could probably make a lot more money around the league. But in regards to the Rockets, I don't know about this one. We'll see what they're able to do in the next couple of days, or the next day or so till we get the trade deadline. But yeah, that's my entire breakdown on this trade. I can't say it's a trade here around the world, but it's something as we get closer to probably a weaker trade deadline. What y'all think of the trade? Let me know in the comment box below. I'm out. You into sports? We got you. NFL news? I got you. NBA news, NBA highlights, NBA full coverage, feature stories, all that great stuff. I got you. We even got a little bit of Madden and 2K mixed in. Subscribe to this platform, and I got you. More quality content on the way. Subscribe.